Ben spent the next 3 days exploring the Xeraxian mothership with Vela as his guide. The vessel was enormous, a city in space housing over 10,000 aliens. Each section served a specific purpose. From the botanical gardens where plants from 100 worlds grew to the engine chambers where strange energies pulsed and flowed. "This technology is incredible," Ben said, as they stood in an observation dome, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them. From this height he could see no borders, no divisions, just the blue and green planet he called home.
"How long has your species been traveling between stars?"
"We left our homeworld 30,000 of your years ago," Vela replied. "The original ship was much smaller. Each generation added to it until it became what you see now." "You've been living on this ship for 30,000 years?" Ben tried to imagine it. "Not this exact vessel. We have 12 motherships, each housing a branch of our collective." Vela's skin rippled with subtle patterns of pride. "When we find suitable planets, some choose to settle. Others prefer the ships. We are adaptable." Ben thought about humanity's short history. "We're just beginning to explore our own solar system. We must seem like children to you. Young, yes, but youth has advantages. You question, you innovate, you change." Vela turned from the view of Earth. "My species changes slowly, some would say too slowly." They moved through a corridor where other Xeraxians nodded respectfully to Vela, but regarded Ben with curiosity or suspicion. He had learned to recognize their emotional patterns in their skin, though some remained mysterious. "Why do some of your people dislike humans so much?" Ben asked after passing a group whose skin had darkened at the sight of him. "Fear," Vela said simply. "Fear disguised as superiority. Your species develops quickly. In the time we mapped your solar system, you advanced from primitive flight to breaking your atmosphere. Some believe that in a few centuries you might surpass us." They entered a new chamber, smaller and less grand than the others. Inside, a single Xeraxian female worked at what looked like a control panel, though it had no buttons or screens, just surfaces that responded to her touch. "Ben Turner, this is Mira, our communications specialist," Vela introduced. Mira's skin flickered with blue patterns that Ben had learned indicated surprise or nervousness. "Sovereign," she acknowledged, bowing slightly. "The human specimen is smaller than I expected." "I'm average height for a human male," Ben said, trying not to sound defensive. "Mira has never met a human before," Vela explained. "Most of my crew haven't. Our contact has been limited to your leaders and scientists. Show him what you discovered," Vela instructed Mira. The communications specialist hesitated, her skin patterns shifting rapidly. "Sovereign, this information is classified by council order." "I am overriding that classification," Vela said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Mira touched the control surface, and a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air before them. It showed what looked like ships, but unlike the elegant design of the Xeraxian vessel. These were angular, predatory in appearance. "The Zorth Imperium," Mira explained. "Their fleet was detected crossing the boundary of your solar system yesterday." Ben looked at the image with growing concern. "Who are they?" "Conquerors," Vela said. "They consume rather than create. They find worlds with resources they desire and take them, regardless of indigenous life." "Are they coming to Earth?" Ben felt a chill. "Yes," Mira confirmed. "Their course and speed suggest arrival in approximately 6 of your months. We need to warn people," Ben exclaimed. "Prepare defenses. The Council has voted against interference," Mira said, her skin patterns showing what Ben now recognized as regret. "They believe contact with the Zorth would violate our observation protocols." "Observation protocols?" Ben turned to Vela in disbelief. "You just watch while another alien species attacks Earth?" "That is the majority position," Vela acknowledged. "Not mine. How many ships? How dangerous are they?" Ben asked, studying the image more carefully. "Their main fleet includes 200 warships and support vessels," Mira replied. "Their technology is roughly equivalent to ours, though they focus more on weapons than sustainability. And Earth has nothing that could stop them," Ben realized. "Nothing," Vela confirmed. "Your most powerful weapons would barely damage their shields." Ben ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "So you're telling me that in 6 months an alien armada is going to arrive and there's nothing we can do about it?" "I did not bring you here simply to observe human compassion," Vela said quietly. "I brought you here to help me change the Council's mind." Mira's skin patterns shifted to alarm. "Sovereign, that is against..." Vela silenced her with a gesture. Leave us. After Mira departed, Vela turned to Ben. The council meets tomorrow. They have agreed to hear you speak. Me? What could I possibly say that would change their minds? The truth. Your truth. Vela's eyes locked with his. Some believe humans are too primitive to be worth saving. Too violent, too divided. Show them otherwise. Ben paced the small room. But we are divided. We fight wars over resources, religion, borders. We're not united like your people. And yet, when true disaster strikes, you come together, Vela noted. We have observed this pattern repeatedly. Division gives way to cooperation in crisis. Not always, Ben admitted. No species is perfect, Vela said. The Xeraxians included. We debate while worlds burn. We observe while civilizations fall, all in the name of non-interference. Her skin pattern shifted to colors Ben had never seen before. I am tired of watching potential extinguished before it can bloom. Ben stopped pacing. What do you need me to do? Tell them who you are. Show them humanity is worth protecting. And if I fail? Vela's expression became solemn. Then I must abide by the council's decision. Ben spent that night in the quarters they had prepared for him, trying to think of what he could possibly say to convince an alien council to save humanity. The room adjusted to his needs automatically, the temperature perfect, the lighting changing based on his movements. He tried to sleep but kept seeing the predatory ships in his mind, imagining them descending on Earth. In the morning, if there truly was morning on a spaceship, Vela came for him. She wore formal attire now, her simple clothes replaced by flowing garments that seemed to capture and reflect light. It is time, she said. Ben had been given fresh clothes as well, though they were human in design. I'm ready. They walked through corridors he hadn't seen before, grander and more ceremonial. Other Xeraxians joined them, forming a procession. Ben felt small among them, a lone human in a sea of aliens. Finally, they reached massive doors that slid open silently to reveal an amphitheater. 7 thrones arranged in a semicircle dominated a raised platform. 6 were already occupied by Xeraxians wearing elaborate garments, their skin patterns formal and controlled. The assembled aliens turned as one to watch Vela and Ben enter. Hundreds of eyes followed their progress to the center of the chamber. Ben could feel the weight of their stares, the judgment in them. Vela took her place on the 7th throne, higher than the others. The Council of 7 is convened, she announced, her voice carrying throughout the chamber without seeming to raise it. Today we hear the words of Benjamin Turner of Earth. One of the council members, a male with rigid geometric patterns on his skin, spoke. Before the human addresses us, I must formally protest this proceeding. Our laws are clear, we observe. We do not interfere. Your protest is noted, Councillor Zarek, Vela acknowledged. Yet our oldest law is survival. The Zorth threaten that too. Not our survival, another councillor countered. Let the humans face their fate as all species must. Ben stood alone in the center, surrounded by aliens debating his planet's doom. He took a deep breath and prepared to speak for humanity. The streets of New Harbor glowed with the purple hues of alien technology that had become commonplace since the Xeraxians arrived 5 years ago. Ben Turner walked through the marketplace where both humans and aliens shopped side by side. His worn backpack hung over one shoulder containing all he owned in the world, since losing his parents in the initial contact wars. Most Xeraxian females stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. They looked down on humans both literally and figuratively. Ben had learned to keep his head down and avoid their notice. He spotted her sitting against a wall near the food stalls. A human woman with matted gray hair and tattered clothes. Her eyes seemed vacant, staring at nothing. The marketplace crowds flowed around her as if she were invisible. Ben approached and knelt beside her. You hungry? He asked. The woman looked up slowly. Her face was weathered by years of hardship, but her eyes suddenly focused on him with surprising clarity. Yes, she whispered. Ben reached into his backpack and pulled out his lunch. A simple sandwich wrapped in paper and a bottle of water. He placed both in her hands. Behind him, a musical trilling sound erupted, a sound Ben recognized as Xeraxian laughter. He turned to see 3 tall females watching the exchange. Their skin rippled with patterns of amused yellow. The shortest of them, a mere 6.5 feet tall, addressed him in perfectly accented English. Why waste food on this broken thing? Human compassion is so inefficient. Her companions trilled again, their slender fingers covering their lipless mouths. The female continued, "Your species fascinates me. You preserve what should be discarded. You waste resources on the weak. This is why you remain inferior." Ben stood his ground, though his heart hammered in his chest. She needed help, so I helped. Simple as that. The Zeraxian leaned down, her face inches from his. "You helped nothing." Her voice was cold. "You merely prolonged suffering. This one contributes nothing." She should be processed. The alien word for euthanized, Ben knew. He stepped between the aliens and the woman. "That's not how humans work." The tallest Zeraxian pushed him aside with casual strength, sending Ben stumbling backward. "Then allow us to demonstrate efficiency." As the three moved toward the woman, a high-pitched tone suddenly pierced the air. Ben covered his ears as the Zeraxians froze. Their skin shifted rapidly from confident yellow to alarmed blue. The beggar woman stood slowly, all trace of weakness gone from her movements. Her eyes now shone with an inner light. The Zeraxians immediately dropped to their knees, heads bowed to the ground. "Matriarch, forgive us," the shortest one whispered. "We did not recognize you." The woman ignored them and turned to Ben. The illusion around her seemed to shimmer and fade, revealing not an elderly human but a Zeraxian female unlike any Ben had seen. Her skin glowed with patterns of gold and silver. Her height matched the others, but she carried herself with unmistakable authority. "Thank you for your kindness, Benjamin Turner," she said. Her voice resonated with power, though she spoke softly. "How do you know my name?" Ben asked. "I know all who show true compassion," she replied. "I am Vela, sovereign matriarch of the Zeraxian collective." Her eyes narrowed as she regarded the kneeling aliens. "These ones forget our purpose here." The three Zeraxians trembled visibly. Ben stared in confusion. "You were testing me?" "Not testing, observing," Vela corrected. 5 years we have lived among humans. We understand your technology, your governments, your military capabilities, but compassion remains mysterious to us. Many argued your species shows it as weakness." She gestured toward the cowering aliens. "Their faction believes this. I wish to see for myself." The marketplace had gone silent, everyone watching the scene unfold. Vela continued, "I have walked your streets for months in many disguises, experiencing how humans treat their most vulnerable. I have been ignored, threatened, and occasionally helped." Her eyes fixed on Ben. "But never with such simple kindness, expecting nothing in return." She approached the three Zeraxians. "You who mock compassion are relieved of your positions. Return to the mothership for re-education." The aliens backed away, still bowing, before vanishing in flashes of light. Vela turned back to Ben. "I wish to understand this compassion better. It may be what saves both our species." "What do you mean?" Ben asked. "War approaches," she said simply. "Not from us, but from beyond. Your world possesses resources many covet. The Zeraxian collective can offer protection. But my council remains divided. Some see humans as primitive, resources to be used. Others as potential allies. I seek evidence to support the latter." She held out her hand. "For giving food to a stranger, you may have changed the fate of your world." Ben stared at her outstretched fingers. "What happens now?" "Now you help me understand humanity better," Vela said. "Come." Ben hesitated only a moment before taking her hand. The marketplace disappeared in a flash of light. They reappeared in a vast chamber unlike anything Ben had ever seen. The walls curved upward, meeting in a dome hundreds of feet above. The entire surface pulsed with soft light, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. "Welcome to the mothership," Vela said. Ben turned in a slow circle, taking in the alien architecture. "Why me? I'm nobody." "That is precisely why," Vela replied. "The influential humans we have met present only what they believe we wish to see. They offer carefully crafted words. You offered a sandwich without hesitation." A door appeared in what had seemed like solid wall. Through it stepped another Zeraxian female, her skin patterns marking her as high-ranking, though not as elaborate as Vela's. "Sovereign, the council demands explanation," the newcomer said, her eyes darting suspiciously to Ben. "The council does not demand anything of me, Lyra," Vela replied evenly. "They will receive explanation when I choose to provide it." Lyra's skin darkened with what Ben assumed was the Zeraxian equivalent of a flush. "Forgive me, Sovereign, but bringing a human aboard is my decision," Vela finished. Benjamin Turner will help us understand what we have failed to grasp about humans. Lyra looked doubtfully at Ben. This specimen? He appears unremarkable. Ben shifted uncomfortably under her scrutiny. Appearances deceive, Vela said. A lesson you would do well to remember considering recent events. Lyra lowered her head. As you wish, Sovereign. Prepare the liaison quarters for our guest, Vela instructed, and inform the council I will address them when Earth's sun next rises. After Lyra departed, Ben turned to Vela. I can't stay here. I have a job. Well, sort of a job. I wash dishes at the diner 3 nights a week. Time moves differently here, Vela assured him. When you return, barely a moment will have passed. She studied his face. Unless you wish to refuse our invitation? Ben thought of his tiny apartment with the leaking ceiling, of the diner where he worked for barely enough to eat, of the empty life he'd been living since his parents died. No, he said finally. I'll stay, but I'm not sure how much help I'll be. I'm just one person. I can't speak for all humanity. One voice can reveal more truth than 1,000 diplomats, Vela said. Come, there is much to show you. Ben stepped forward, acutely aware of the hundreds of alien eyes watching his every move. The council chamber was silent, waiting for the human to speak. He had spent hours trying to formulate the perfect argument, but now, standing before these ancient beings who held Earth's fate in their hands, all his prepared words seemed inadequate. My name is Ben Turner, he began, his voice steadier than he felt. I'm not a diplomat or a scientist. I'm not even particularly important. Until 5 days ago, I washed dishes in a diner and lived in a one-room apartment with a leaking ceiling. He paused, looking at each council member in turn. Their expressions were unreadable to him, their skin patterns formal and controlled. I lost my parents during first contact. They weren't soldiers. They were teachers who happened to be in the wrong place when panic broke out. I don't tell you this for sympathy. I tell you because despite that, I don't hate Xeraxians. I don't even blame you. Fear and misunderstanding cause most of our problems, not malice. Counselor Zarek shifted impatiently. This personal history is irrelevant to our decision. With respect, Counselor, it's entirely relevant, Ben countered. You're deciding whether humanity deserves to be saved based on what you've observed of us. I'm showing you what you've been observing. He took a step closer to the council. Humans are flawed. We fight wars. We pollute our environment. We can be selfish and short-sighted and cruel, but we can also be kind and brave and selfless. We create art and music that serve no practical purpose except to express what it means to be alive. We sacrifice for strangers. We change our minds when presented with new evidence. We learn from our mistakes. Ben gestured around the chamber. This ship is amazing. The technology you've developed over thousands of years is beyond anything we can imagine. But in all that time, has your society really changed? Do you question your ancient laws, even when they lead to the destruction of an entire world? Murmurs spread through the watching Xeraxians. Ben pressed on. Humans change constantly. 100 years ago, women couldn't vote in most countries. 200 years ago, slavery was common. 300 years ago, we burned people for witchcraft. We were wrong and we changed. Not perfectly, not completely, but we try to be better. Another council member, a female with delicate silver patterns across her face, leaned forward. You speak of change as if it is always positive. Many species destroy themselves through change. Stability ensures survival. Without change, there is no growth, Ben replied. And yes, change carries risks. But without it, you're just existing, not living. He turned to address the entire chamber now. You've been watching us for years. You've seen our divisions, our conflicts. But have you really understood what makes us human? We contain contradictions. The same person who throws trash on the ground might risk their life to save a drowning child. The same nation that wages war also sends aid to disaster victims halfway around the world. Ben walked to the center of the chamber, where a holographic representation of Earth slowly rotated. He reached out, his hand passing through the blue-green image of his home. If you let the Zorth destroy Earth, you're not just losing a planet with resources. You're losing all our potential, all the art we haven't created yet, all the discoveries we haven't made, all the ways we might grow and change and maybe someday become something more than we are now. He turned back to face Vela. The Sovereign found me giving a sandwich to someone I thought needed it more than I did. That simple act brought me here. But I'm not special. Millions of humans make similar choices every day, usually with no one watching. That's who we really are. Counselor Zarek's skin flashed with dismissive patterns. Pretty words, but they change nothing. Our laws of non-interference exist for good reason. Once we intervene in one species' development, where does it end? It ends with you making choices based on wisdom instead of rules, Ben replied. Isn't that what leaders are supposed to do? The council chambers erupted in shocked murmurs. No one spoke to the council this way, especially not an alien from a primitive world. Vela raised her hand and silence fell immediately. The human speaks boldly, but there is truth in his words. Our laws were created to protect, not to bind us to inaction in the face of preventable tragedy. The law is absolute, another counselor insisted. We cannot make exceptions. Then perhaps the law is flawed, Vela suggested. The chamber fell silent again, the concept apparently shocking to the assembled Zeraxians. Ben felt a flicker of hope. He had at least one ally on the council. I propose an alternative, Vela continued. Not direct intervention, but cultural exchange. We share defensive technology with the humans. They adapt it using their creativity. Together, we present a united front against the Zorth. Unprecedented, whispered one counselor. Dangerous, warned another. Necessary, Vela countered. The Zorth grow stronger with each world they consume. If Earth falls, they will eventually threaten even us. The silver-patterned female counselor spoke again. Sovereign, even if we accept your proposal, how could humans possibly master our technology in time? The Zorth fleet approaches rapidly. I have a suggestion, Ben interjected. All eyes turned to him again. Don't just work with our leaders and scientists. Reach out to ordinary people. Humans adapt quickly when we need to, and we're at our best when we work together toward a common goal. Counselor Zarek's skin patterns conveyed obvious skepticism. You suggest we reveal ourselves fully to your population? The panic would be uncontrollable. Maybe at first, Ben acknowledged. But we've known about you for 5 years now. The initial shock has passed, and nothing unites people like a common enemy. Vela's skin shimmered with approval. The human makes a valid point. Limited disclosure, followed by cooperative defense preparations. This requires a formal vote, Zarek insisted. Then let us vote, Vela agreed. Ben stood tense as the 7 counselors communicated silently, their skin patterns shifting in what he now recognized as their form of private conversation. After several minutes that felt like hours, Vela addressed him. The council has reached a decision, she announced. By the narrowest of margins, we have agreed to Sovereign Vela's proposal for limited intervention. Earth will be warned of the coming threat, and defensive technology will be shared under strict supervision. Relief washed over Ben. It wasn't a perfect solution, but Earth would have a chance. There is one condition, Zarek added, his skin patterns conveying reluctance. Benjamin Turner will serve as the primary liaison between our species. He will bear responsibility for ensuring human compliance with our restrictions on the technology shared. Ben blinked in surprise. Me? But I don't know anything about alien technology or diplomacy. You were chosen for your compassion, Vela reminded him. Now you are chosen for your understanding of both our worlds. You will not be alone. A team of advisors from both species will assist you. I'll do my best, Ben promised, though the weight of the responsibility terrified him. The council is adjourned, Vela declared. Preparations will begin immediately. As the counselors dispersed, Vela approached Ben. You spoke well, she said quietly. Few have challenged the council so directly and lived to tell of it. That's comforting, Ben replied with a nervous laugh. What happens now? Now we return to Earth, Vela said. And you help me convince your leaders to trust us. That might be harder than convincing your council, Ben admitted. I have faith in your abilities, Vela assured him. You have already accomplished what many thought impossible. As they left the council chamber, Ben wondered how he would explain to his boss at the diner that he wouldn't be coming in for his next shift, because he was busy saving the world from alien invasion. Some things, he decided, were better shown than told. As if in answer to Vela's words, space seemed to ripple around them. Where there had been emptiness, ships appeared. Not one or two, but dozens of Zeraxian vessels, each nearly as large as the mothership itself. The fleet had been there all along, cloaked by technology Ben hadn't known existed. The other motherships, Ben breathed in awe. All 12 of them. For the first time in 10,000 years, the entire collective fleet has assembled, Vela confirmed. We have observed long enough. It is time to act. The communications officer's skin patterns flashed with urgency. Sovereign, the Zorth commander is hailing us again. On screen, Vela ordered calmly. The Zorth commander appeared, its segmented body now rigid with what Ben interpreted as alarm. This deception changes nothing. We still outnumber you. Numbers are not everything, Vela replied. This is your final warning. Leave this system or face the consequences. We do not respond to threats. The Earth will be ours. Prepare to... The transmission cut off abruptly. They've launched fighters, reported the tactical officer. Attack patterns suggest they're targeting our sensor arrays. Let them come, Vela said. She turned to Ben. Now we see if your people's ideas prove effective. Ben nodded, thinking of the long hours his team had spent redesigning Xeraxian defensive systems. Traditionally, the aliens had focused on impenetrable shields and overwhelming firepower, but humans had suggested a different approach, drawing on Earth's military history and, surprisingly, video games. The first wave of Zorth fighters streaked toward the Xeraxian fleet, weapons blazing. Instead of raising shields, the motherships released clouds of small, seemingly unarmed drones, each designed according to human specifications. What are those? Asked Lyra, watching the tactical display with concern. We call them chaff, Ben explained. Decoys mixed with electronic countermeasures. The Zorth fighters fired into the clouds of drones, their weapons finding targets that exploded satisfyingly, but did no damage to the actual Xeraxian vessels. Meanwhile, the motherships were moving into a formation that no Xeraxian would have devised, seemingly chaotic, with ships crossing paths dangerously close. The human Noah designed this maneuver, Vela told the bridge crew, who watched nervously as the massive vessels danced around each other. He calls it threading the needle. On the main screen, Ben could see the Zorth fleet responding with confusion, their neat attack formations breaking up as they tried to target the unpredictably moving Xeraxian ships. Launch Phase 2, Vela ordered. From the bellies of the motherships emerged smaller craft, not much larger than shuttles. These shot toward the Zorth fleet at incredible speed. Boarding parties? Lyra asked, surprised. Not exactly, Ben said with a smile. The small craft did not attempt to dock with the Zorth vessels. Instead, they attached themselves to the hulls and began to drill through. Kathy's idea, Ben explained. She remembered an old Earth video game where viruses could infect enemy ships. These pods contain reprogrammed maintenance robots. The tactical display showed Zorth ships suddenly going dark, or beginning to move erratically. Their communications became garbled. Some fired on their own allies. Sovereign, called the communications officer, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Zorth vessels. Ignore them, Vela ordered. It's a tactic. Continue the attack. The space between Mars and Earth had become a chaotic battlefield, nothing like the orderly engagements Xeraxians had trained for. Human-inspired tactics had transformed the motherships from lumbering fortresses into unpredictable threats. The Zorth, who had expected to face either no resistance or conventional Xeraxian defenses, found themselves unable to adapt quickly enough. Main Zorth command ship is attempting to retreat, reported the tactical officer, skin patterns showing surprise. Do not allow it, Vela ordered. That ship contains their leadership council. Without it, their fleet will be in disarray. 3 motherships broke from the Xeraxian formation, pursuing the fleeing command ship. It was faster than they were, but the course it needed to take was predictable. Activate the minefield, Ben suggested. Vela nodded approval. Another human innovation deployed. Thousands of small, nearly invisible devices had been scattered in the space where the Zorth would likely retreat. Not explosive mines, but gravity disruptors that would play havoc with the enemy's engines. The Zorth command ship plowed into the invisible minefield. Its engines flared and then sputtered as the gravity disruptors did their work, twisting space around the vessel in ways its navigation systems couldn't compensate for. They're dead in space, reported the tactical officer with satisfaction. Prepare boarding teams, Vela ordered. I want their leadership captured, not killed. Ben watched as the battle continued to unfold. The Xeraxian fleet, using human-inspired tactics, had completely disrupted the Zorth attack. What should have been a brief, one-sided engagement had turned into a humiliating defeat for the invaders. We've won, Lyra said in disbelief as more Zorth ships surrendered or attempted to flee. No, Ben corrected. We've bought time. The Zorth will adapt. They'll come back with new tactics, new weapons. But Earth's defenses will be ready by then, Vela reminded him, and our species will face them together. Hours later, with the battle concluded and Zorth leadership in custody, Ben stood with Vela in her private chambers. The victory had been more complete than anyone had dared hope. Not a single Zeraxian ship had been destroyed, while half the Zorth fleet had been captured or disabled. Your people's ideas proved decisive, Vela acknowledged. The Council has taken note. There is talk of a formal alliance, not merely protection. From primitives to partners, Ben said with a smile. That's progress, more than you know. Our society has remained largely unchanged for millennia. Yet in mere months of working with humans, we have begun to question traditions, to consider new possibilities. Vela's skin rippled with thoughtful patterns. It is. Uncomfortable for many, but necessary, I believe. Change usually is uncomfortable, Ben agreed. But like I told the Council, without change there's no growth. Vela studied him for a moment. When I disguised myself as a beggar, I hoped to understand human compassion. Instead, I found something more valuable. A reminder that different perspectives have value. That wisdom can come from unexpected sources. Like a dishwasher with a sandwich, Ben said wryly. Precisely. Vela's skin patterns shifted to something Ben now recognized as amusement. The Council has asked me to establish a permanent exchange program. Humans living among Zeraxians, Zeraxians among humans. Would you help create this program? Me? I'm not qualified for something like that. You have lived in both worlds. You understand both species. Who better? Ben thought about it. His old life, the tiny apartment, the dishwashing job, the loneliness seemed a distant memory. In just a few months, he had found a purpose larger than himself. He had helped save his world and perhaps changed another. I'll do it, he decided. But I'll need help. You will have whatever resources you require, Vela assured him. This is only the beginning of what our species can accomplish together. 1 year later, Ben stood in the observation dome of the mothership, watching Earth rotate below. The planet looked different now. The Zeraxian defensive technology, adapted and improved by human innovation, was visible as a faint shimmer around the atmosphere, a shield that would protect the world from any future threats. But the changes went deeper than mere technology. The knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe, that they had fought alongside aliens to defend their home, had transformed society. Old divisions seemed less important in the face of cosmic perspective. Resources once devoted to fighting each other were now directed toward exploration and advancement. The Zorth threat had been contained, their leadership forced to sign a non-aggression pact with both Earth and the Zeraxian collective. They had underestimated what the two species could accomplish together, a mistake they were unlikely to repeat. Admiring your handiwork? Asked Lily, approaching to stand beside him. She had been among the 50 humans he'd chosen for the mission to Mars, a former librarian whose pattern recognition skills had proved invaluable in deciphering Zorth communications. Just thinking about how much has changed, Ben replied. A little over a year ago, I was giving a sandwich to a beggar, and saving the world in the process, Lily reminded him. Not bad for a dishwasher. Ben laughed. I got lucky. No, said Vela, joining them at the viewport. You showed compassion when you had nothing to gain from it. That is not luck. It is character. The three stood in companionable silence, watching the blue-green planet below. Around them, the mothership hummed with activity as humans and Zeraxians worked together, learning from each other, growing together. The exchange program has exceeded all expectations, Vela noted. 3,000 humans now live among Zeraxians, and 2,000 of my people have taken residence on Earth. The Council speaks of extending the program to other worthy species. From observation to participation, Ben said. That's quite a change in policy. One of many, Vela agreed. Our people are teaching each other. Humans learn our patience, our perspective across millennia. We learn your adaptability, your creativity, and your compassion, Lily added. 2 months had passed since Ben's appearance before the Zeraxian Council. The world had changed more in those 60 days than in the previous 5 years of alien contact. When Vela and Ben had approached Earth's United Nations with proof of the incoming Zorth threat, initial skepticism had quickly given way to grim acceptance. The evidence was irrefutable. The enemy was coming. Ben stood in what had once been an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of New Harbor. Now it hummed with activity as humans and Xeraxians worked side by side. The building had been converted into one of 100 integration centers worldwide, where Xeraxian defensive technology was being adapted for human use. "The shield modulators are coming online," reported Kathy, a former video game developer who had turned out to have an intuitive understanding of alien tech. Her fingers danced across an interface that blended human touchscreen technology with Xeraxian thought-responsive surfaces. "Power efficiency is up 12% from yesterday." Ben nodded approvingly. This was the pattern everywhere. Xeraxians provided the advanced technology, but it was humans who found ways to improve it, modify it, make it work in unexpected ways. The Xeraxians' rigid thinking was both their strength and their weakness. Thousands of years of technological development had created incredible tools, but they had stopped innovating, stopped looking for new approaches. The orbital platform team reported successful deployment of the first satellite cluster, Ben told Kathy. 14 more to go before the defensive grid is operational. "We'll make it," Kathy said confidently. The production lines in Asia are ahead of schedule. That was another surprise. Once the initial panic had subsided, humanity had rallied with remarkable unity. Old enemies set aside differences to work together. Resources were shared. Knowledge flowed freely. The Zorth threat had accomplished what decades of diplomacy could not. Lyra, Vela's skeptical aide, approached them. Her skin pattern still showed traces of doubt whenever she spoke to humans, but she had adapted to working with them. "The Sovereign requests your presence in the Yao Command Center," she informed Ben. "The scout drones have returned with new information." Ben followed her through the facility. Workers nodded respectfully as he passed. His position as official liaison had made him something of a celebrity, though fame had never been something he wanted. He still thought of himself as the dishwasher who happened to give a sandwich to the right beggar. The command center occupied what had been the warehouse's main floor. Screens and holographic projections filled the space, monitored by a mix of human and Xeraxian operators. At the center stood Vela, studying a three-dimensional representation of the solar system. "Ben," she acknowledged as he approached, "the situation has changed." The hologram zoomed in to show the Zorth fleet. Ben had expected to see the ship still at the edge of the solar system, but they had advanced much further than anticipated. "They've increased their speed," he realized. "How?" "Unknown," Vela replied, her skin patterns showing concern, "but their estimated arrival has changed from 4 months to 6 weeks. Ben felt a chill. "The defensive grid won't be complete by then. We need at least 2 more months." "Then we must delay them," Vela said simply. "How?" "We don't have any ships that could intercept them." Vela's skin shifted to a pattern Ben had come to recognize as determination. "We do." "The mothership," Ben understood. "But the council has been overruled," Vela finished. "The emergency provisions of our charter allow the Sovereign to act unilaterally in cases of imminent threat." "Councillor Zarek must be thrilled," Ben said wryly. "Councillor Zarek has been relieved of his position pending review," Vela informed him. "His communications with the Zorth were discovered yesterday." Ben stared at her in shock. "He was helping them?" "Not directly, but he provided information about Earth's defenses and our involvement. He believed that by sacrificing Earth, the Zorth would spare Xeraxian interests." "He betrayed his own people," Ben said, disgusted. "Fear often leads to poor decisions," Vela observed. "The Council now unanimously supports intervention." She gestured to the hologram, which shifted to show a new configuration. "The mothership will intercept the Zorth fleet here near your planet Mars. We cannot defeat them, but we can slow their advance." "That's a suicide mission," Ben protested. "1 ship against 200? "The mothership is more powerful than you realize," Vela said. "And we do not intend to engage in direct combat. Merely to delay and disrupt." Ben studied the projection. "You'll be vastly outnumbered, which is why I need humans aboard," Vela said. "Your unpredictable tactics may be our greatest advantage." "You want human soldiers?" Ben asked, surprised. "Not soldiers. Thinkers. People who see possibilities where we see only established patterns." Vela's eyes met his. "I want you to select a team. 50 humans to join the mothership crew. Me? How would I know who to choose? You understand both our peoples now. You will know. Ben ran a hand through his hair, a habit when he was stressed. When do we leave? 3 days, Vela replied. Choose wisely. Our success may depend on it. The next 72 hours passed in a blur. Ben reviewed personnel files, conducted interviews, sought recommendations. He wasn't looking for the obvious choices, not top scientists or military strategists. Those people were needed on Earth to complete the defensive preparations. Instead, he looked for creative problem solvers, people who thought differently, who saw connections others missed. He chose Kathy, the game developer. For her ability to grasp alien concepts intuitively, he selected Noah, a former race car driver whose spatial awareness and split-second decision-making had already proved valuable in adapting Xeraxian navigation systems. Maria, a nurse whose empathy had helped bridge cultural misunderstandings between humans and Xeraxians. Raj, a chef who had figured out how to prepare Earth foods in ways Xeraxians could digest, creating the first truly shared meals between their species. By the time they boarded the mothership, Ben had assembled a team unlike any in human history. Not the most credentialed or famous, but perhaps the most adaptable. The departure was without ceremony. The mothership simply rose from its position above Earth and accelerated toward Mars, where it would intercept the approaching enemy. Most of the Xeraxian crew regarded the humans with curiosity or caution. A few showed open hostility. But Vela's authority was absolute, and her support for human involvement never wavered. Ben stood with her on the bridge as Mars grew larger on the main viewing screen. The red planet would be the backdrop for humanity's first interstellar battle. The Zorth fleet has detected us, reported a Xeraxian officer. They are adjusting course to intercept. As expected, Vela acknowledged. Deploy the sensor drones. Ben watched as small unmanned craft launched from the mothership, speeding ahead toward the still invisible enemy fleet. What exactly is the plan? He asked Vela quietly. We cannot win through direct confrontation, she replied. But we can confuse, mislead, and delay. Every day we gain allows Earth's defenses to strengthen. The first images from the sensor drones appeared on the screen. The Zorth ships were unlike anything Ben had imagined. Where Xeraxian vessels were elegant and organic in design, these were angular, asymmetrical, almost painful to look at. They bristled with what could only be weapons. They're hailing us, announced the communications officer. Vela nodded. On screen, the image shifted to show the interior of the Zorth command ship. The alien that appeared was so different from either humans or Xeraxians that Ben struggled to make sense of its form. It seemed to be composed of overlapping plates or segments with multiple limbs and sensory organs arranged in no pattern Ben could discern. When it spoke, the ship's translation system converted its sounds to words, but they came out flat and emotionless. Xeraxian vessel, you violate Zorth-claimed territory. Remove yourself or be destroyed. Vela stood tall, her skin patterns formal and controlled. This system is under Xeraxian protection. Your claims are invalid. Retreat now. The Zorth commander made a sound that the translator didn't convert. Ben suspected it might be laughter. Protection? One ship against our fleet? Your species grows senile, Sovereign Vela. The humans have nothing we want except their world. Give us that, and we may allow your continued existence. Ben noticed something odd about the transmission. There were subtle shifts in the background, movements that didn't match the commander's gestures. He leaned close to Vela and whispered, They're hiding something. The transmission is manipulated. Vela gave a nearly imperceptible nod before addressing the Zorth again. We offer you one chance to retreat. There will not be another. The alien commander's segmented body shifted in what might have been amusement. Your empty threats are noted. We will enjoy dismantling your ship piece by piece. The transmission ended. They're accelerating, reported the sensor officer. Attack formation. Defensive posture, Vela ordered. Prepare for engagement, Ben turned to her. What aren't you telling me? One ship can't hold off their entire fleet, even for a day. Vela's skin patterns shifted to a configuration Ben had never seen before. Who said we only have one ship?